We'll get started with the planning commission meeting for the 7th. Roll call,
Kenneth Farrell,
present.
Lawrence Stevens.
Here.
Larry Burns.
Here.
John Cresser.
Here.
Michelle Cresser. Here. Jamie Snyder. Here.
All right, first on the agenda, motion to approve the August 7th agenda.
Make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to approve the May 1st, 2023 meeting minutes.
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Third on the agenda, 23 North Main Street, Arbor Grove Development Sketch Plan Presentation. Mr. McGinnis.
Sure. Oh, here, but. Try not that one.
Ominous, I think.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mike McGinnis from Beverly Carlin, here on behalf of the developer, Arbor Grove. This is a sketch plan. We appreciate your time this evening. We're looking for feedback regarding the potential development of 23 North Main Street in the borough. My client is the equitable owner of the two parcels at issue, and I do have my client also here with me, as well as Rob Cunningham, whose office prepared the plan that is before you for discussion tonight. What I'm going to do is orient and refresh the planning commission regarding this site, and then discuss the evolution of how we got to what we're proposing this evening. As you may be aware, we are talking about two separate parcels. I'm going to refer to them tonight as one property, but they are two separate parcels. One of which, the one to the rear, is landlocked, a bit irregularly shaped, and that portion of the site is split zones between the core commercial and the R1 zoning district. It is the larger of the two parcels. It's about 1.28 acres. And then you have the portion of the property which fronts on North Main, which is a little over 10,000 square feet, which is presently approved by a single family detached dwelling. There was some conversation, I think, reviewing the minutes from Mr. Ambrose to the previous conversation with the Planning Commission back in December of last year, and some of the review letter comments about what would occur with the development at the site. And it's our intention to likely, if the borough was okay with it, do some sort of a lot consolidation. And then we can discuss part of what we're here to tonight regarding how to deal with the underlying zoning and the impact of the underlying zoning and development. I will note that my review of the presentation from December and the associated review letters and meeting minutes, Planning Commission indicated what I would consider to be three primary areas of concern. What was proposed at that time, there was a discussion regarding a mixed use development at the site, which was primarily composed of approximately 6,800 square foot office space on the first floor, and then 3 stories vertically above the office space, which had 22 residential apartment units. The concerns seem to indicate, one, the Planning Commission wanted more information regarding the potential traffic which would be generated based upon this mixed use hybrid commercial residential development. There were concerns that were levied regarding the height of the building. And then I think specifically the biggest concern from a technical standpoint seemed to be concerns raised by the fire marshal regarding wanting to make sure in particular that there was access to all 4 corners of the building from a safety standpoint. Because of the concerns raised and the dialogue that occurred in December and the dialogue thereafter with the borough, my client took a look at potential alternatives which might not on its face be as compliant with the underlying zoning district, both from a use and dimensional standpoint, but might be a better development, both from my client's perspective and we hope from the community's perspective, including the borough's perspective. So the initial step that we took after sort of backburnering the mixed use plan was to take a look at twins at the site. So the twin plan, which was never officially submitted as a sketch plan, also had 10 units, but the composition of the units were a bit different than what you have tonight, which is a block of 4 and a block of 6. There were 2 houses actually right around where you can see the no community area on this plan. Some of the, I think, logistical issues that we were running into and I think issues that were raised informally by the borough after a meeting occurred regarding the twin plan had to do with the fact that there wasn't a driveway, there were no garages. And while I know there is not a large rear yard with the units we're proposing tonight, there was an actually more compressed rear yard with clean composition. So again, we went back to the drawing board a bit to see if we could refine that plan a bit further to come up with a better solution, and we arrived at what is before you tonight for consideration. So as you can see on the plan, our sketch plan proposes 10 townhomes. There is a driveway for each of the units. There is a garage for each of the units. There's spillover parking, as Rob can get into in a minute. And we also have a community area, which is shown on the plan. One of the notes in the borough engineer's review letter had a question regarding the functionality of the community area. We understand with any residential development, we want to capture and retain as much green space as is possible, and anything that we can offer for members of the community who are going to be residing in the homes, we try to accomplish here. So even though the particular space isn't incredibly significant, we do think there is room if the borough was inclined, and as we went through a land development process, to probably have something like a playground area that was fenced in, or a gazebo or something similar. I will also note that the area of the site which is not being developed, and by that I mean if you're looking at the plan, the back left corner of the site plan, which is open space, I believe is adjacent to a public area or public park. And Mr. Amoroso, who's here tonight, can confirm that in conjunction with the development, we'd be happy to work with the borough to either donate or aid restrict that area to make sure it remains as green space in perpetuity. The one of the other items I want to cover at the beginning is, I understand anytime you are attempting to develop a property that is undeveloped and which is behind other homes which are developed, particularly one that is landlocked, there's naturally going to be concerns about the idea that we're developing behind someone's house. I will note on this that we are doing what we can. We're mindful with the site plan that we aren't having any units directly on the rear yard of the houses which front on East Broad Street. We are willing to and will obviously do everything we can to maintain green space or buffering to the best of our ability, understanding the lot is relatively compressed here as we go through the land development process. Stormwater management, as an example, is something that obviously we're going to have to refine our design as we move forward. We're going to be looking at whether an above ground or underground stormwater management system would be best suited at the property after Rob's team is able to do some more calculations. So there are items sketch plan that will be refined if we're able to move forward with the proposed development. We can't just rezone the parcel because there is not a corresponding zoning district which exactly fits what we're proposing to do here. R1, for example, is just single family detached. So, we looked at whether there was some creativity that we could offer from a rezoning standpoint, and unfortunately that's not viable. What we tried to do to the best of our ability was to take the R4 performance standards to see how close we could get to achieving those for townhome development. And the reason behind that is obviously we can pull from the sky whatever is aspirational and put it on a plan. But we wanted to do what we could to comply to the best of our ability to what a development would expect to comply with if this in an alternate reality was on R4. And one of the questions that was raised in the review letter, or I guess it was the question in the statement, was as we move forward, we would have to update our zoning table to provide corrections to what seemed like inaccurate information. Again, Rob can get into this, but just for clarity's sake, when you look at the zoning table, that was our attempt to establish basically performance standards here, illustrating what our lots would comply to. So we are aware of the fact that there is not a zoning district, for example, that has a 65% building coverage for townhomes, not in the core commercial, not in the R1, not in the R4, but we're trying to marry performance standards for what we are proposing with clarity and transparency to the borough about what the dimensional impacts would be. So moving forward, we could of course provide information contrasting this with the R4 or with the core commercial or with the R1, but I did want to provide information so you understand why those numbers are on the site plan. They weren't just randomly pulled from the sky. They correlate to our proposed development. The other thing I will highlight about that is we do meet the density requirement, which is 6 dwelling units per acre. And again, we're trying to achieve the corresponding performance standards to the best of our ability. We're here tonight to attempt to get your feedback in terms of whether this is a plan that the borough and obviously the neighbors in the community or anywhere here could potentially support working towards. I think this is a classic case where there are options that we could build at the site which are conforming with the underlying core commercial zoning district, but I don't believe, my client doesn't believe, I'm not sure if the borough believes that those options are the best development that could occur at this site. So we're aware there is no real way for us to achieve this development or a variant, very close variant of this development while adhering to the zoning. So we're going to either need a variance or we would need some sort of a text amendment or overlay. We're aware of that. What we're trying to accomplish is to start a dialogue with the planning commission, with the borough consultants, and then hopefully with borough council, and again, any members of the community who would be impacted by this development to see if there's a common ground that we could work towards achieving instead of really what would be permitted with the underlying zone. So I do have a series of review letters from the borough. Unlike a normal land development presentation, where I'm going through them, talking about waivers, full complies and the like, this is a sketch conversation. So what I would like to do is turn the floor over briefly to Mr. Amoroso, provide additional perspective regarding what's being proposed this evening, and then have Mr. Cunningham walk through the plan that's in front of you. And we're happy to dive into, I'm sure there's a couple comments here that merit further conversation. I'll put the floor up and address any concerns, questions, and the like the planning commission might have. So again, we appreciate your time this evening, and we hope this is another step towards a productive and reasonable development at the site.
I will be brief. Essentially, I heard the planning commission and the members of the last time I was here. And that's what really generated this plan. There was a lot of objections to the size of the building, there was a lot of objections to the height of the building, and that's, I think, what I did this plan to better conform with the surrounding neighborhood size. That way the residential always blends in better and have a similar product. And also, the buffering, we would do buffers, just so the residents would have to see, the buildings that the new buildings. But we're here to, hopefully work something out and see what we can do. Thank you for your time.
Briefly, and I'll just briefly.
Yeah, me neither. You can keep going.
Good evening, Rob Cunningham, Post Cunningham Engineering. For you is the plan we prepared, after work with Mike, for quite a while. And, to be honest, we think that this was our best shot. What you have is you have the single access driveway, which is 26 feet wide, comes off of Main Street, would work its way back. Along that drive, we're proposing some parallel parking spaces to provide some overflow in case residents would have guests. The driveway heads northeast, hangs at 90 degrees, and then would service the 10 townhome dwellings. There's two driveway spaces. Each dwelling unit would have a one-car garage for car storage or additional storage.
Nobody parks their cars in the garage.
Nobody does. That's why we have the two on the driveway. But you know, some people don't have as much stuff as others, so they still have some space. So that meets our parking requirement in the driveways, and then the additional would be for shared use, extra spaces, guests, things like that. There is also, based on discussions with the mics, you know, fire access was one of the biggest issues. Doing a cul-de-sac or something like that would be too large. So we're proposing to do what would be a fire truck turnaround. There was a review from the fire marshal. He needs some additional information, but we think we're headed in the right direction. It gives him the opportunity to access the site, turn vehicles around and exit. So that's the general layout. Each of the units would be 3-story slab on grade units with a proposed deck patio in the rear. They're 20 feet wide and 40 feet long. It's not dissimilar to the homes that are right around the corner here in terms of their massing and size. There's the stormwater area and the community area to be determined based on calculations. But there is the stream which bisects the site on the northern corner. That area would be preserved and protected, and we would obviously obtain permits for all of these disturbances and the like. So that's the general layout of the plan. The way the driveway is set up, it's to have the driveway as far away from the intersection of Broad Street as possible. But it may need some adjustment based on some of your feedback, some zoning feedback, things like that. But we believe we're heading in the right direction with the plan. We've made some minor adjustments as needed, but we think we're there.
If there's any review comments that you want us to cover, we're happy to do that. There were a few that I had highlighted when I went through the borough engineers review letter. Try to hit on a couple of those, particularly the 9th comment regarding the information on the zoning data table, give additional context for why we have what we have depicted on the zoning table. Of course, we're happy to buttress that with underlying zoning district information. Item 12, we there are certain studies that have already been completed, particularly with respect to wetlands and Rob's office did a survey, but we can provide information to the borough's satisfaction regarding the preparing corridor and that was discussed.
Is there woodlands on the site?
There is some wooded area back in that corner. Obviously, most of it's on the other side of the stream will be preserved.
Thank you.
And then there's a question about the community area, which I discussed. I think what we have depicted is approximately 25 by 50. That's comment 18. And we're more than happy to take the borough's feedback in terms of what they might desire to see there. And that the size of that might be a bit fungible as we move forward. We're aware that it's close with this current layout to the adjacent parcel and to the stormwater management facility. But again, stormwater management design is going to change a bit as we move forward. And then that rolls into the 19th comment regarding understanding the fact that our engineer likes to see some separation between the edge of buildings and any stormwater management facilities, probably for safety reasons when it's above ground stormwater management. And that will be something that our office works with the borough engineer on moving forward. We're not even sure, standing here right now, if that's going to be an above ground area. It might end up being below ground. These are things that we're gonna have to decide that, if there's a path forward with this development, we will trust our pencils and take a look at that. So those were a few of the comments that we had flagged that proactively felt warranted clarification or further commentary. I'm aware of the fact that the borough zoning officer circulated a review as well. I'm not going to stand here arguing that we have a environmental development for that development. So in my mind, if and when we got to the point where we're either looking to the borough for some sort of amendment or for a variance request, we would just coordinate with the zoning officer to make sure that the ambit of what we were seeking from the zoning standpoint was covered with that. Okay, I didn't need dive into specific comments
Right.
for that.
Did you see I saw it at my spot tonight, the Montgomery County Planning Commission review?
I saw it came through. I was out of the office.
Okay. I didn't really,
Reviewing that.
yeah, I didn't really review it in depth either, so. We, at our last meeting, very informally, and again, if there's any members of the planning commission can agree, confirm, or deny what I'm saying, but we did take a look at it. And we certainly are more in favor of this concept and this plan than the last plan. I truly believe that when the core commercial district was enacted, this parcel erroneously got added to it and nobody caught it. To have a large building like that behind all these buildings probably isn't the greatest thing. And again, thank you for coming in with this plan. I think this is more suited for the borough and more suited for the area than the other plan. So, couple things that I have on my mind, and obviously the open space, you've agreed to some form or whatever, dedicate or easement or whatever. And I just want to make sure that, if we have a parcel on the other side by Walker's, which is on the other side, if we wanted to somehow connect the trail system in that park, maybe have it come up to Broad Street, would that be an issue?
That'd be great.
Okay.
I think the benefits are development and
Definitely does.
there's greater community benefits.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest hurdles you're gonna have is parking. We have a few developments in town that are townhouses that just, people nowadays, there's 4 people in the family and they have 5 cars. I'd like to see what you can do, maybe some additional parallel parking on the main road close to the entrance, where you have the 7 spots on the one side. Can we squeeze 3 or 4 on the right side? I don't know. Can we think about doing an underground basin, maybe moving the 1 through 6, maybe moving 1 to the other side so we can create some additional parking or something. We have 7 spots now. 10 spots is better than 7. 15 spots is better than 10. I understand there's an ordinance requirement, but when people start getting 16-year-olds and buy the 3rd car and then they have 2 kids, now they buy the 4th car.
Understood. So basically, on our end, see what we can sharpen our pencil.
Yeah.
if We can increase our yield for parking.
You know, again, I don't know if some additional parking at the end can be created. Can we kind of be creative? And I know the driving factor is going to be the stormwater management. You know, if there's gonna, you know, if it's gonna perk, if it's not gonna perk, what's the size, you know, and I know you probably didn't run any calculations, the dash line on the plan, and I get that, but at the end of the day, you know, the developer, he's gonna be gone, we're gonna be stuck with the problem. We're gonna have, you know, the phone calls, oh, he's having a party, he has a party on Friday nights, I can't park, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's reality, you know, it's reality. There's, at least my understanding, there's an easement for the post office for the parking lot on part of this property.
I wasn't aware of it.
I don't believe that there's an easement. Part of the parking lot is on this property.
Yeah, but I thought the owners of the property,
Nothing of record.
okay,
There's nothing in our title.
all right, okay.
So nothing came up. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but we respected the fact that it was there and it's probably grandfathered at this point.
Well, I know they built the parking lot over the property line and the owners were aware of it. And I don't know if they did a one-time monetary thing or if they did a easement or they did a monthly. I don't know what it is, but I'm just bringing it to your attention that something, you know, may or may not be there just because, and I'm looking at it because depending on where the line is, you know, if there is open space, if it's dedicated, if it's not dedicated, whatever, that may or may not affect where that is. So I'm just throwing it out there. And I know there's something there because I actually surveyed it for the previous mayor and did a little sketch for him that he then went to the post office with. So after that, I don't know what happened, but just you know, just find that out. Are there any deal breakers in the memo? The review letters, any problems that you foresee from an engineering standpoint?
From an engineering standpoint, no, I think we can make some adjustments to satisfy bulk of the, let's call it non-zoning
Right.
dimensional stuff. You know, there's some discussion about buffers and setbacks.
Yeah, well, that,
Fencing and things like that, I mean, those are all will apply items. You know, as we have your comments about kind of plan tweaks for parking, maybe we'll address some of those as well. Before we're back here.
if you were to zone the property R4, would you still require variances?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't think we'd be able to zone it R4 anyway without that being spot zoning. I don't think there's R4 close enough to the property is my recollection.
Well, the borough's 7/10 of a square mile, so
That's
everything is close to everything.
Yes, we don't meet the R4 standards.
Right. So,
Density, yes, but there's other components that we wouldn't be.
right. So you would be potentially looking at a variance, a use variance and dimensional variance.
Correct. We would need a variance again, or some creativity in correspondence with the borough solicitor's office regarding, you know, an overlay or something like that. But
Larry, do you have any questions, comments?
Yeah, just a comment. So we have 10 units there. And there was the comment about the basin and about being so close there. Do you know what you're anticipating trying to get for these units, cost wise? Just ballpark.
I'm not sure at this point. I have to see what the improvements might.
Because what happens if you drop one of the 6 and you only had 5 up there? Then you get away from that basin, whatever you do there, you'd have a little more room. The reason I bring that up is we did a development at Coffel and Vine, that one, and it looks horrible now. The density is ridiculous. And, you know, I drive by there and I look at it and I go, it looks terrible.
Drive by it every day.
Yeah, they put fences up and everything and
They have an above ground basin and literally you come off the porch, the deck, and your yard is basin.
Yeah.
And I understand that they'll have a little bit more of a rear yard, but you know, the side yard is in here would all be basin and when you look at that development, it does,
terrible.
and maybe there's a hybrid you can do in
We've
ground.
done that. We've
In
had-
ground, close to the building, but then above ground, or whatever, I mean, you know.
So I certainly think part of the reason that we're here is to get exactly that sort of feedback and your perspective on existing developments and your desired density as well. What we did, I think was pretty simple. We had laid out 10 twins and we looked at it and said, okay, if we're pivoting from twins to townhomes, can we just move the 10 twins to 10 townhomes? And we came up with this concept plan as a sketch. To be cynical, my experience with residential development in the range of 8 to 20 units is generally, you know, you propose 20 and the borough or township wants 16, you propose 18, they want 14, so on and so forth. So what we would like to achieve, and then we can actually, you know, really crunch the numbers to see if it's viable, is if the borough, and I'm not asking for this with any definiteness tonight, but the borough said, look, 10 is hard here because of the reasons that you just enumerated. But we really think there's a project we can get behind if you had 9, because it might be able to capture additional parking or green space. That's something we can at least look at then and say, all right, we think we can do that, or no, we don't think that's viable for whatever reason. So those are the sorts of things we would like the borough to be considering over the next month or so as this project's discussed, and they can try to work towards an aspiration.
That would do something else for you too, because I know that the fire marshal had a comment about if you have a fire there with a 3-story building, you're gonna bring the ladder truck in. I used to run a Souderton Fire Company years ago, and that's an issue. And once you set it up, you're there. And in this, if something, you know, God forbid, but if something were to happen in one of them back units and the ladder truck came in and the pumpers are all around it, you're not moving the ladder truck. You know, and if you did that, that gives you that, it might come into play a little more, you know, you might be able to do, you know, if you, a real way out there is you did away with one of those and one of those, then you could get more parking down here.
Right.
Then it
Yeah,
might,
that's what I was gonna say.
it might be better
If
for.
if 9 gets you some additional parking,
Or even 8, if you had knocked off one of those 4, you know, just throwing it out there, you know, that's why I asked
Yeah.
what you were anticipating the selling price to be. I want to see how big a nut you guys
And
really
just
think that is.
historically with townhouses, my experience is the 20-foot townhouse you can sell to a certain price point.
Right,
And
When you
if
go-
you lost units, you would have to go to get the money back, you have to be at 24 feet. So it's just, right, like you've taken same amount of development in terms of the width of the units. So,
Yeah, but we can take again, that's the exact sort of comment
Just-
you
just
want
a
for us to be
idea.
able to talk about.
well, if you went to 22, you're splitting the baby because then it'd be at 10 extra feet. You'd be at 10 extra feet and you lose 1 unit. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
just throwing,
No, I think we want, that's why we're here.
we're just throwing some ideas out.
trying to make this as less painful.
And we need I mean, again, to all our cards on the table, we know we need the borough's support for a development of this nature. And again, we think it's better than us, you know, I'm not someone, and Scarlett knows this, I'm not someone who shows up saying, you know, fire and brimstone, we're gonna do this horrible thing. But the reality is, for the reasons you've discussed, the underlying loading seems the sort of product we can deliver here by right, or whatever phrase you want to use, just doesn't seem like it makes a heck of a lot of sense. So we're trying to come up with something that does make sense, understanding no one is gonna there will always be some concern or question raised. We're not gonna have a perfect development, but if we can get something where the borough says, yes, we think this is a good project and we can live with that, that's the middle ground.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, that's my comments.
How about you, Mr. Stevens?
I don't have anything additionally. I agree. My concern was the parking, the density. I think this is a lot better, plan than, of course, than it was previously submitted. And, the concerns of the comments of the, consultants. Yeah, but I don't have any additional questions, but I like this plan. I think we're moving in the right direction for sure.
Good, good. John,
Two comments come from the people on it.
Yeah.
we'll get to them after us.
Less is best. I heard that comment about 8 more space to get equipment in there.
Mhm.
Because it is a problem.
Mhm, yeah, absolutely.
It is a problem.
And once it's up, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Less, and I definitely want to hear what the residents have to say since they're the ones that have to live beside it.
Do you mind if we go to public comment? Because I know there's some residents in the back and we'd like to hear what they have to say.
Absolutely.
Is there any public that has any comments, questions, concerns? Why don't you come up, use the podium? State your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Doug Renner, 25 North Main. How tall are this building gonna be?
They're gonna be 3 stories though.
3 stories?
Yeah,
Okay,
that'll give you an idea. Just look at the little sketch there, plan.
here.
Yep.
The other thing is, like you're saying about the fire truck getting in there, that's a big issue with me because, once it's there, if there's not good enough access there, it's, that can be,
You lose them all.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm right next door there, so. That's the biggest thing I'm concerned about.
They all have sprinklers too.
Okay. What about is there gonna be fire hydrants in there too, or not?
Yeah, it would be required by code with that. We would do a water main extension. And then there would be fire hydrants to support.
Historically, it's 300 feet, so I would imagine that there would be a fire hydrant probably next to somewhere near unit 10 up there at the corner so that it can service this whole area right there.
Yeah. The other thing is, what about, is there gonna be dumpsters for the trash receptacles or?
Individual toters.
Oh, okay. No dumpsters then?
No, and then we'd have a planned community of some sort. And they would probably restrict that the toters have to be stored inside.
There will be an HOA.
The other thing is, about things that driveway is gonna be so close to the intersection. What's gonna be the traffic impact there? Are cars gonna be allowed when they come out to turn left, or is it gonna be a right turn only? That's, how congested it gets, and then people are gonna try and turn left with cars sitting there at the intersection. That just seems a little.
They will have to go through a review with the traffic engineer, and they'll have to provide a traffic study. McMahon did have a review letter.
Their main comment was about traffic study.
Yeah,
We will do. And if it's a right out only, then that's fine with me, whatever.
And you
However it works.
can workshop that if that is the result of the traffic study to make sure that no one is actually.
I just think it's pretty congested there now. You throw this in the mix.
yeah.
It's gonna get like gridlock.
I think that, once they get a final number on the units, they'll submit, they'll do, satisfy McMahon. There's always options if they don't do the pork chop, limiting left-hand turns out of there from this time to this time. Now, again, that doesn't always stop people because they don't always obey the law, but
Yeah, like,
for the most part, it will generate, people will abide by it. And the heavy times, they will, do a right out and no left turns. But maybe not having the full pork chop, but again, it's a borough road, which is a good thing, because then we have control over it. And our engineer can work with their engineer to determine what the fix is going to be, or the disposition of the entrance.
okay, I guess that's all I got.
Thank you.
State your name and address for the record,
Okay.
please.
My name is Janet McCarty, and I live at 13 East Broad Street. Well, it just seems like I talk a lot in that field. It's just, and again, you all just seem to put so much in that little field. And it's in my backyard, basically. So that's what I look at. And I know you'll put a fence up, I'm assuming you will. There's just too many of them. I mean, if you could do something like a cul-de-sac and 3 nice modest homes, that would be nice. But not this many. The traffic is bad, the exhaust I'm gonna smell. I mean, all of us on this street, that's what we hear, the noise, and that's a lot of people. And I live there. I'm not a builder, I'm not a designer, I'm a person who lives there. And so this matters to me, matters to all of us on the street. I just think it's too much in small parts.
Thank you.
Bonnie Houseman, 5 East Broad, I'm right here at the corner. And yeah, I have the same feelings as Jan. It's a lovely property and I just thought somebody would buy that and put a really beautiful, nice, lovely home back there. And just have one person coming out of the driveway, or a nice twin and have 2. I mean, we have a nightmare trying to get out of our driveway. It is a nightmare. And I say that with all emphatic nightmare. I mean, I am competing with the neighbor across the street. I'm competing with all the traffic that comes down Calhoun. I'm competing with the next door neighbor. I'm competing with the post office, the church. All of these driveways are coming out there and I can't even get out of my driveway. I will sit there sometimes for, 10 minutes and I can't get out the driveway. So that's a definite concern. I also have a concern about, I thought you were doing it in and out. So it's all gonna come right out next to my driveway. All this traffic's coming out next to my driveway. And let me tell you, so they want to turn left and I want to get out of my driveway. We're all sitting there like, okay, who's gonna go? Like, these are the things that are gonna happen. And it will, but what happened to the in and out? And can the fire engine can it get around that? It can turn around?
Ooh, that's what they have a backup area. So they don't have a cul-de-sac. So when he pulls in by unit number 1, he'll be able to back up and then come out. They did that in lieu of a cul-de-sac. And same with the trash trucks. When the trash trucks go in, they would do the same thing so that they can back up there.
Okay. Are these gonna be bought homes or
Yes.
purchased? Okay, and I agree with Jan. I do think less is more. Like I thought in the lovely home back there or something, or, if you want to do townhomes, you're squeezing a whole lot of people back in there too. And that, I mean, Hatfield closes up its sidewalks. We roll them up at night. It's quiet. And I just can't imagine like all that going on back there. You've got 10 townhomes back there, all the traffic and people, noise, whatever going on. Like, it's quiet. I look out there, it's dark, it's quiet. It's quiet all over our street, even though there's a lot of traffic, but I can't imagine the implications of all that going on. That's a lot of people to squeeze into a spot behind other people. But, I mean, and this height thing here, it looks tall. It looks pretty tall. Will it be taller than our homes that are existing then? 3 floors, so that's taller.
It's in the picture, yeah, so 3 floors.
I see it, but I
So-
can't
so
tell,
the height of
like,
this right up
are they all gonna be?
Snyder Square.
Right there on the left of the driveway.
They're 3 stories, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right out here at the end of the driveway on the left, those buildings,
The 4 townhouses right here at the end of the
Yes.
driveway, they're
That-
3 stories.
that'll be that high.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, I'm just trying to figure if their lights will shine into our homes, you know what I mean? Will the lights be shining in? That's all. It's gonna be a whole different ballgame. There'll be lights on and things happening. Well, I just imagine those street lights, right? Parking lots and all. So then there will be lights shining back there. That's where it's now.
For the
There's
lighting.
no lighting back there.
There's a lighting plan that's required because we can't have light pollution that spills over into neighboring properties. So that would be something we would work through with the borough consultants to make sure that none of the properties, particularly that are on Broad Street, get impacted with our development from a lighting.
Yeah, and a lot of these fixtures, like when they redid Hatfield Elementary, when they redid that, they put those fixtures, I live right
Yeah.
behind it, and they shine down. I mean,
So
it's
they
not-
don't shine in your
no, it's not a
house.
problem.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
I was worried because they put a bunch of them up.
What's gonna shine in our house? Yeah.
And he's right,
That
it's,
whole thing.
it's a big deal. The light pollution is a big deal.
Light pollution, it's a thing. And, yeah, we already have the noise pollution, but that'll make much noise, much more noise, 10 homes back there. So it's not gonna be an in and out, you're going with one driveway.
Well, that's a proposal now. Certainly, when the developer submits a preliminary final set of plans, they'll work with the township consultants, and if there's another proposal they can come up with, I'm sure they will.
Okay. So
Pardon?
where's my driveway? Like, where's it gonna
We would-
come along my
Right in.
driveway, right?
That'd be the only option.
So if you look real close, you can see the little boat sitting in the parking lot there, just to the right of the green at the bottom. There's the boat.
There you go.
There's the boat that's there, and right near you, the person next to
Right, there's your
Good
point.
eyes.
you. Yeah,
Is this an old picture?
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
There's no boat there.
well,
Wasn't today.
yeah.
maybe 5, it could be 10 years.
It's old.
They're aerials that
The
are.
boat's gone. Boat's gone.
Is this the Google? Yeah.
That was our sailboat.
Yeah.
Gone.
So that's, but just to give you.
So
a
it
reference,
goes right up to the driveway.
Yes.
That was right on the edge of the driveway, the boat.
that's
Yeah,
why I was
well, the
pointing.
property line does, the property line, the driveway is offset,
Over a little.
yeah.
That's green grass or green space there.
Yeah. Well, that's not gonna do a whole lot for me getting out of my driveway. I'm gonna.
Probably like 25 feet from the property line, something like that.
Well, that was,
Yes.
I guess that was.
And those are good comments, because when we get to that point, and if they do a traffic study,
I thought
then we can look at some of those things and see what we can.
I was wondering about the traffic study. I thought that was gonna happen. That didn't yet.
Well, I mean, to do it, you have to know how
It
many.
depends on how many units. and
Yeah,
the-
There is no other, no.
You know, we don't want.
That's really expensive, so you
All
want
of
to wait
that's
till you have all
gonna
your.
impact traffic, no matter what you put back
No,
there.
you're- And with the post office right next to it, right?
The post office, the
Yeah,
church, and all the neighbors, we're all competing to get out of that, out onto that road, and that intersection is a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. So I wonder if your lights in the driveway. All right, so you don't think this is gonna impact me and my driveway, like all those cars coming
I
along?
would certainly hope not, but
What's this water runoff stuff? Are we gonna get wet yards?
No, they have to provide stormwater management as part of the development. They're proposing a detention basin to handle all of it.
up in the back.
But again, our consultants will review it and make comments and, provide, consult on the design so that it doesn't flood anybody out.
We have a legal requirement to reduce the stormwater runoff post-development from pre-development flow. So as we go through the development process and the stormwater calculations and stormwater management designs finalized, our team would be in consultation with the borough engineers team and would have to supply all the documentation that would indicate that there will be less runoff from this site after development than there is before because of the stormwater controls that will be implemented, which aren't there present.
The ideal thing would be that it would all flow that way, not towards you and flow over there.
And it probably does go towards the stream.
Yeah, because that's where the stream runs
Yeah.
down.
It'll flow to the street.
And he'll have some storm, so some inlets.
Yeah.
And piping and whatnot that'll help capture it.
So it shouldn't impact you.
Okay, well, that's always a concern, but.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Basement of yours.
Okay.
Okay. I guess that's all I have.
Thank you.
Is there any other follow-up comments from the planning commission? Is this plan going before council with the sketch?
No, it is not, and I did reach out to Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Amoroso just to see, I gave them the council meeting dates that they could choose from for the future to present the sketch plan, but it's not scheduled right now.
We wanted to see how this meeting went to then discuss internally before there was a determination about what was being presented publicly at the council meeting. We didn't want to presume, we meant to schedule it.
No other comments?
No, I think we covered the comments.
I think I think there's support here for it. I think the biggest thing is, let's work on the number, work on the parking. And hopefully the two will come together and there'll be minutes and council will get our minutes, our discussion items and I guess from our standpoint, you have the green light to move forward.
I have one comment, if I could add to it. I think the summary of this is too many homes, if it could be reduced. All right, I don't like to say that, but, and then the other thing was, they're worried about cars and they're also worried about how do you exit that place?
Yeah.
So, right turn only, whatever it is.
The traffic maneuvers and how it impacts some of the surrounding property. Understood.
Okay.
Got it.
We appreciate the
And-
feedback.
Oh, by the way, how much are these gonna be?
I'm not sure yet. I had to see what the improvements come in at and how many units will be there. Because it's all a function of how much you're gonna be able to charge for them. They're only 20-foot units, so they're not gonna be, too expensive.
What's the average going rate of something like that?
Probably in the fours, I would say.
Yeah, but the price alone will cost 3.9 to build it.
Yeah,
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, we have some updates. Old business. And Edinburgh Square.
So the update for Edinburgh Square is they are now in their 18-month maintenance bond period. So we have some maintenance bond security at Meridian Bank that we have set aside during the 18 months. I know there's some questions about the trees in the stormwater basin. We noticed that they have died, so that's going to be addressed probably prior to the 18 months. But everything else, we put it on our calendar and Chad will go out and review, 16, 17 months to make sure, we have to use any of that money that we have it.
Bennett's Court.
Bennett's Court, they are currently working in the developers agreement. They submitted to the borough, plans for recording. Chad is reviewing those plans and then we'll sign off and move forward.
43 Roosevelt.
There is no update for 43 Roosevelt. I have not heard from the developer.
Diddens Greenhouse.
Denon's Greenhouses, they are working on a plan update and they plan to submit to the zoning hearing board for their stormwater that they have to take care of that's located in the borough.
Do they need other variances or just?
I think for the borough, it was more like the floodplain and like that issue for the borough was their main concern. But when I talked to the township, they made a comment about, I believe they already went to zoning hearing board for the township.
Yes, they would.
Previously, yes.
Yeah.
So this is just something for the borough, and then he was gonna submit updated plans once they went to zoning to, if they move past zoning to give, just keep moving down the line, but the township hasn't heard from them recently either. When I talked to them, this was probably even at the beginning of June.
All right, 5, new business, 103 North Main Street.
I just wanted to make you aware that 103 North Main Street is scheduled for a zoning hearing this Thursday, August 10th at 7 p.m. That's where they are looking to turn the single-family dwelling into 2 units. It was continued from their last meeting, so it's scheduled for August 10th.
200 North Main Street.
200 North Main Street also has a zoning hearing board meeting this Thursday, August 10th. They're just asking for an extension due to PHFA funding. So they're waiting to hear from that. They haven't heard about their funding yet, so they're looking for an extension from the zoning hearing board on Thursday.
All right, all right, B, adopted ordinances.
Just wanted to let you know that Borough Council adopted ordinance 550, keeping of chickens. It was the same ordinance that you had saw. The only thing was you guys had suggested to council, instead of 10 days, maybe be 7 days, that the zoning hearing officer, it's 10 days in the ordinance. That's how they left it. But other than that, it's the exact same ordinance that you guys,
Fireworks.
guys and gals, saw. Fireworks ordinance, 541, consumer fireworks and display fireworks. This ordinance you saw, but it was amended. The basic gist of the ordinance is there is no use of consumer and display fireworks in the borough that are projectiles. So you can have the novelties, like the $25 box, you would buy a Giant or Walmart, little spinners in your driveway, but any projectiles are banned in the borough. That's on any holidays as well. So it's 365 in the borough.
All right. Number 6, action items we have done. Number 7, our next meeting will be Monday, August 28th, assuming there is business.
Yeah, right now I don't know of any, but that doesn't mean, if something came in, it probably was too
Yeah.
short to review. So I'm gonna say it's most likely going to be canceled.
All right, well, we'll be in contact with everybody. All right, is there anything else for the good of the cause? Do I have a motion to adjourn? I have a motion by Larry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Michelle. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.